Eugene, Trump just beat Florida Governor Ron DeSantis 70% to 21% in a CPAC straw poll. DeSantis would hold a comfortable lead over the others if Trump did not run. Vanity Fair says Trump and DeSantis appear to be on a collision course as DeSantis explores a run of his own. So CPAC did a second straw poll that shows results if Trump did not run. I mean, just talk to me about those dynamics, right? The fact that they feel they need to do two different polls.
Well, it shows that at once they're not exactly sure what Donald Trump is going to do. They have no clue. He is giving them no indication. Therefore, kind of like the Democrats in 2016 with him when it was like, will she or won't she with Hillary Clinton, the will he or won't he with Donald Trump is making it really hard for Republicans to do much of anything, right? It makes it so Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and the rest of them who might run in 2024 have to move slowly, have to be very, very nice to him. And one of the interesting things when you talk to some of the Trump supporters is that they always pick Ron, not always, but they tend to pick Ron DeSantis because he's brash. He has that kind of personality that Donald Trump has, where he's a little mean, in public and talking to reporters and the way that he speaks to other folks. And I think that is something that they're really interested in. And with Donald Trump, he runs this party. You can't run afoul of him. So it has caused the party to do all types of things, even repeat dangerous lies, say things that aren't true at all at CPAC and in Congress, just so they make sure that they don't piss off Donald Trump. And he tweets, or excuse me, not tweets, sends a statement about him, about them to someone.
Old habits die hard. Eugene, lots of talk today about this 7-point fantastical plan to reinstate Trump as president in days, not weeks. I mean, how seriously is this being taken within the Republican Party?
I mean, on the Trump in the Trump part of the party, right? The base of the Trump side, they really believe it. We've had some of my colleagues who've gone to some of the Trump rallies, and they've been surprised at the kind of suburban white women who, if you saw them on the street, you probably wouldn't expect them to believe something that is, one, obviously true, never going to happen, possibly dangerous. That aspect of it is something that's confusing. And even when you talk to Republicans that are up here in Washington, D.C., even behind the scenes, they're not sure what to do with it because, again, they know they can't speak out against something like that, right? They can't say that Donald Trump's not going to be president, even though he's not going to be in a few days, in a week, unless he runs and wins in 2024. And so it seems like the Republican Party is, if not taking it seriously or really believing it, they are allowing it to fester. And we've seen how when you allow lies and conspiracy theories to fester, what happens. And that's why we have things like January 6th.
Right. Ben, as I hear about this 7-point fantastical plan, to me, it has echoes of QAnon.
Well, it's kind of the same vibe, right? That eventually one day in the future, no given date, but, one day in the future, your dreams will come true. Donald Trump will be the president again, or all of his enemies will be arrested. Fantastical realism is the sort of driving animus right now of a lot of this party. By the way, I want to say there is this idea that QAnon went away because Q went away, and that all the people who followed QAnon, just neatly stopped caring about politics in the last 6 to 7 months. That is not the case. They still have their influencers. They still follow the same network factions. They still go to the same forums. They're still targeted by the same algorithms. Just because it's not called QAnon anymore doesn't mean they're not trading the same outlandish conspiracy theories. Look, they don't want to be called QAnon supporters. That's for certain, but because they know the branding is toxic.
Right.
But
and Megyn,
they are still following the same kind of insane stuff.
Right. And Megyn, all of that is having an impact on the party itself. I want you to take a listen to what Congressman Adam Kinzinger said earlier today. Take a listen.
The biggest enemy to MAGA world right now is not even me or Liz Cheney. It's Mike Pence. Mike Pence is one of the most faithful people to Donald Trump. But if you ever turn an ounce against Donald Trump, you're out of the tribe.
Megyn, talk about this purging of moderate Republicans from the ranks of the modern Republican Party. What does that mean for the future of the party?
Yeah. So, what I think about first when I think about the Republicans trying to purge the moderates is that math is definitely not their strong suit. I mean, at some point, they're going to have to realize that when it purges all the moderate members, all that does is create more independent and Democrat voters. And the more aggressively it purges those moderates, the more aggressively those purges are going to speak out, fundraise, and work to either defeat these extremists or, make sure the other party wins. I think it's fairly easy. The Republican Party can't grow or evolve without being more inclusive, including Mike Pence. And we're never going to get back to being any sort of big tent party with these purity tests. They used to be pro or anti-choice, pro or anti-gun, yada, yada. But now it's just pro or anti-Trump, period, with no mention of platform or policy whatsoever. So our tent is getting smaller and smaller. My question kind of around all of this is why in the world are they so focused on fighting within the party right now? We're facing so many real generational threats, climate change, geopolitical concerns, the pandemic, and we're bickering about who's more Republican, who's more loyal to a twice impeached former president. That's not leadership. That's not solutions. I think that's chasing sound bites and trying to please a very vocal minority. What's interesting that we talk about a lot in these kind of moderate Republican circles is who gets to define what moderatism is in the current Republican Party. Right now we're using the term moderate to define non-Trumpy. I think that's what the Kinsingers and the Liz Cheneys are. But at one point it was a socially liberal, fiscally conservative term, and if you're the former, Liz Cheney's being called a rhino, a moderate, but she has one of the most conservative voting records. So not only is purging moderates a bad strategic plan, but I think we're now misapplying the term to moderate to just refer to anyone who isn't bowing at this altar of Trump, which has nothing to do with actual policy or platform, which, by the way, the Republicans haven't had in several years at this point.
Yeah, Eugene, I want you to just tie a few things together for me, as I so often ask you to do. I mean, this week we're going to be looking at the infrastructure deal. We're going to be looking to the president's speech on voting rights on Tuesday. How do those two things, how do those stories change? How are they affected, if at all, by the rhetoric that we are hearing from CPAC, right? What do you hear from Democrats about their sense of whether they can or cannot work with Republicans?
Yeah, I mean, that is the biggest question around Congress right now, right? There are members of Congress who don't feel safe with their Republican colleagues talking and being around them after January 6th. We know one member of Congress moved their office away from a Republican because they didn't, and their staff didn't feel safe. And so how do you work with people like that, right? There are little pockets of compromise and conversation that's happening, right? That's how we got this kind of bipartisan infrastructure framework. You have the police reform group that's very small, one Republican, one Democrat, and on the Senate side. And so little things are happening, but I'm not sure how you get back together and if there's going to be any compromise, because the Republican Party right now is not really focusing, like she just said, on policy at all, right? Not just bowing at the feet of Trump, but also, and probably more importantly, just spreading conspiracy theories and obstructing. And there isn't a sense that they want to get things done. I think for Democrats, for this White House, who focus a lot on policy, who want to go around the country and talk about the things that they do and their plans, it's hard. They also seem to at times be missing the political ramifications of not fighting about these untruths. And what I'm told sometimes is we don't want to elevate those. And it seems like they're being elevated either way. So how long do you kind of let those things fester without talking about them and pushing them aside?
Ben, before I let you all go, I have to ask you, how is all of this QAnon stuff now playing out in school boards? Why school boards?
Look, QAnon supporters have decided to start running in local elections because, low turnout can win you an election. There's one QAnon supporter, one of the big influencers from early on named Tracy Diaz, who won a local election with 170 votes. This is a big thing with Mike Flynn. Mike Flynn has told QAnon supporters, told all of his fans, but QAnon supporters are a large sect of them, to run for local office, to run for school board and get involved in the education of our children. That's the big thing in the QAnon forums in the last few weeks. So they are really ready to go take the bull by the horns here. They are sick of waiting for a plan to happen. They are trying to make it happen themselves.
All right. I am glad that you were reporting on this, Ben. Eugene, Megan, thank you all.